Okay? Now, here's what I want to say to you. Here's what else I'm going to say to you that's important. I want you. Okay. So, have you started a sprint yet?
At work or
At
at,
work.
at
At
just
at
myself?
at work.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Now, in that sprint, without telling me what you're working on, do you have a sprint goal?
Yes.
Great. Is that sprint goal focused on getting some return on investment?
Yes.
Great. Now, I want every single sprint, when you have that sprint goal, figure out a small thing that you can try during that sprint goal that can help you test out one of these agile concepts. Does that make sense?
Mm, I hear your words, but no.
Okay, so let's just say this particular sprint. Could your team try, let's just pick this, test driven development?
Um, like automation.
No, just test driven development. Y'all
Um,
passed test driven development and you moved on to automation, right?
they're working on automation. Not everything is, but
Okay, now here's the
no, we have
statement.
testing. Okay. Yes.
Guess
Yes.
what you don't know? You don't know enough about test driven development. You
No.
don't know enough about extreme programming. So now your
No.
team,
No, I don't.
they're doing something that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Anytime your team is doing something that you don't know about, it is your job to immediately go learn about it.
Okay.
Why do I say that to you? Because that concept is in a book.
Okay. They're doing. I got the book. I think I got the extreme. I know you mentioned that in class.
Yeah,
We're doing Scrum XP. So is that Scrum and extreme
this
programming
this is
together?
extreme programming,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Extreme
So yes,
programming, so XP.
extreme. Yep. So I need
This
to learn.
is
I need to understand
this is
that.
the creator right there, right? Now,
Okay.
why am
Can.
I saying run a small experiment? Because these are things that you need to experiment with.
Okay. All right.
There's nothing. Okay, so do you need to apply all these things in this book to try one of the concepts in this book? No.
No.
Okay? And so this is the stuff that when you hear something, you don't have that knowledge, you need to. Okay, so here's the deal, right? Me. If you came to me and there was something at your church that I did not know, guess what I'm going to do that evening as soon as I walk away? I'm going to go get something and get some knowledge about it.
Okay.
Anytime there's something that I don't know, in 24 hours, I will know something about it. In 24 hours, I will be a book expert on it. You heard me say a book expert on it.
Yeah.
Because most people haven't read a book about it. And there's too much stuff available on the internet for you to be in the dark about anything. So
That's
anytime you
true.
don't know something, you put it in the Rolodex. For those people that don't know what the Rolodex is, just put it in your brain somewhere and save it. Write it in your fancy smartphone, right? So go ahead and Rolodex it, right? And if you Rolodex it and you go learn it, you have just increased your knowledge once again. So now I want you to be this sponge. And I want you to just think of this next year like you're a neophyte. You're looking for knowledge, you're looking for knowledge, you're looking for knowledge, and you're just trying to gain as much knowledge as you can. Because here's the thought process. The first, let's see, in 2005, I became a CSM, I became a PMP, a CSM, and the thing that I did was just kept seeking knowledge. Every place I go, I was digging for knowledge. Every step I made, I was digging for knowledge. If I was missing knowledge about writing, about building project plans in Microsoft Project, then I went to go learn about it. If I had a conversation with somebody and it was something about that conversation didn't work very well for me, guess what I do? I go figure out how I can make that conversation better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, in terms of a technique that I want you to grab onto, you wanted a technique that you can use. And
Yes.
there's a lot of things that fall under this technique. I want you to focus on active listening because active listening is going to help you, is going to springboard you to many other places. So when you start thinking about active listening, there's all kinds of things like summarizing things, paraphrasing things, reflecting things. There's all these things that come under the active listening umbrella. So if you think to yourself about active listening, you are going to position yourself to actually do way more, way more. Because once you learn how to just listen, and the reason why I say that is because one of the problems that I have and that I've always had is that somebody may start off part of the conversation with you and then you jump and go in some direction and you take them in the wrong direction and then it's not good. So sometimes you just want to sit back and just listen, take in information, let people know that you're listening because when you do that, you will build more trust with them. If there was one thing that I did early on that I probably don't do as much now, especially in training classes, it's much harder to do it in training classes because you're not having an exchange. But when I'm on the ground, the one thing that I'm doing a lot of is listening and making sure that people know that I've heard them. Now, why do I say that? Because probably the number one technique that worked for me when I was an intern at Disney, and I had a member of my fraternity actually say this to me. He told me about active listening, and the one thing that I did when I was at Disney is that they let me, I don't know what they did, they let me walk into the headquarters or whatever, and I was asking people in their offices questions. And the one thing that I kept doing was reflecting back and listening just to their story. And normally, if they asked me to, if they wanted a question from me, my question was always about them. Well, how can I become you, basically? And then they tell me their whole story, and what am I doing? I'm making sure that they see nods, that they see me paying attention, that I'm completely focused on them, that I am reflect. Oh, I heard that this happened when you did that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Right.
Or how can I approach that in today's world, and it go into another direction, right? And by doing that, you're gonna build a lot more trust with people. And I want you to build that trust with people because it's kind of one of those things where I had people who thought they knew me, but I had never said a word about myself. If that makes any sense. It don't make any sense at all. But people that talk about themselves to you tend to feel like they know you. When the case is you
Yeah.
have said nothing
Okay.
about yourself, right? And so it's one
Right.
of those things where you're taking that technique to the nth degree and you're using it to help you gain more and help you gain more and help you gain more. There that way you are learning. Okay? Now,
Yes.
in learning, that's the reason why I need you to get with the community of people, right? Because you get with the
Yes.
community of people. The reason why I want you to really focus on the community in the job is because there are things in your job that everybody else don't do.
Right.
And while you're at that job, okay, let me just assume you're a lifer and you're never leaving the job, okay? You want to be
Uh,
able to navigate that job as much as you possibly can. You want to be able to get through all the political landmines so you don't run into as few problems as possible, right? In order to be able to get things through an organization, you have to be able to work in that organization to be able to properly get things through the organization, right? And you need to do a lot of that when you're dealing with teams, especially when you start thinking about things like continuous integration, continuous delivery, and everything else. So I want you to be inside that culture, but I don't want you to forget the outside. Because the one thing that the outside gives you is new ideas that the culture's not thinking of.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you gotta have a
Yes, it does.
you gotta have some tentacles out. I'm not saying have a foot out because a foot out normally means you're walking out. I don't want you walking out, right? I want you to
Right.
have some tentacles out of places where you touch, okay? And then I want you to make sure that you just stay connected deeply in the organization. If I was you, I would volunteer to try to lead some of the stuff that's there. There's nothing better. I'm telling you, there's nothing
I
better
know.
than being on the
Yeah.
inside of something. Okay? So it's just like I would say that the people who volunteer for this show, and I'm gonna have another call going out for volunteers soon, that they learn
Okay.
way more from being on the inside of this show than people who are actually just listening to the show.
Yep.
They learn way more. Okay, and it's not that they learn
That,
more about me. It's just in general we go through more stuff, right? You know, I'm
uh,
talking to one of the volunteers today, and he's talking through a test, and I'm just like, you need to level up, man. You need to level up, right? And that's all. That's not a conversation I'm having here, right? That's a conversation we had back there, which is a good thing to say to him because now he's thinking, you know, I don't just think I need to be here. I think I need to go here and here next, right? And you're
mm-hmm.
not always going to get that when you're just on the outside. So I don't want you to just be a participant.